All right, the economy is melting down and MAGA is coping. Like, check this out. The Dow just plummeted 2,000 points today on Friday following China's retaliatory tariffs of 34%, meaning it's down a total of 3,700 plus points. Presidents typically see gains shortly after taking office, but Trump is basically self-destructing not only himself, but our economy. I want to show you this debate that happened on TV. Now, Derek Thompson, a writer at The Atlantic who just wrote a book with Ezra Klein named Abundance, went on CNBC and destroyed them to their face. Watch how heated this gets.
To be totally honest, Kelly, I've been listening the last 10 minutes of this show. I cannot believe what I'm listening to. I heard your last guest say, if the economy shrinks, that's good. If the stock market goes down, that's good. If the housing market crashes, that's good. If there's a trade war, that's good. When did the capital class get taken over by degrowther protectionists seeking 19th century autarky?
Okay, but Derek, let me just jump in for a second, because if there's one refrain we've heard from millennials over the past several years, it's that the dream is gone. They can't afford a house. Groceries are too expensive.
This is not what we meant by we can't afford a house. We don't want you to crash the effing economy. Check out how Derek Thompson then obliterates
It's
this.
only the first chapter of Abundance.
It's apparently the first chapter of your book. So aren't you a little surprised to hear the globalists, the pro-stock market types who are supposed to be at fault for all of this, now reading out of your book and saying we're bringing prices back down?
They're crashing the economy. That's very, very different than making housing affordable. If you want affordable housing, you need a job. If you crash the economy, you're going to have unemployment. And whenever unemployment hits an economy, as we just saw in 2008 and we saw before in the 1990s, who loses their jobs first? It's last one in, first one out. It's young people.
Young people.
So if your job or if your plan is to crash the economy in the short term for the purpose of helping young people afford a house, you have got it totally backward. Young people need jobs. They need money, and then they need a plan to make housing affordable, right? Donald Trump could have come into office and said, what I want to do is to make the construction of housing affordable. That means the inputs to housing. Instead, he slaps a 25% tariff on Canada, which we import our lumber from, and a 25% tariff on Mexico that we get drywall gypsum from.
And he makes the inputs for building housing more and more expensive. Trump has unilaterally erased not only 1 year of stock market gains, but I would argue decades and decades of alliance building, of trust building that has allowed this much peace and prosperity.
That's immediately raising two of the most important inputs for housing by 25%.
Absolutely well said by Derek Thompson. Now, drop a like, drop some blue hearts for Derek Thompson. Now, on the flip side of that, can I just show you one of the most absurd tweets that I've seen from a conservative in a while? So there's this creator named Benny Johnson. He was actually one of the people caught up in the Russia scandal a few months back when a bunch of conservative creators were found out as Russian stooges. They were taking $500K a month from Russia. Now, they said they didn't know, but Benny Johnson was one of them. Since then, he has relentlessly spread anti-Ukraine, anti-democracy, pro-Russia propaganda, but he just tweeted out one of the craziest things I've ever seen. He said, losing money means nothing. Digital ones and zeros. In the end, you won't miss any of it. Losing your country costs you everything. You will never get that back. Your kids will be slaves to foreign powers who hate us. Without America First policies, we become slaves. Lord have mercy, my head is going to explode. Trump ran his whole campaign talking about the price of everything, saying he's going to lower the prices on day one. He thinks Biden hates Americans because he was purposefully raising prices because he wants people to struggle. Yet when Trump actually does that, he's basically saying losing money means nothing. In the end, you won't miss any of it. Dude, tell that to the millions and millions and tens of millions of families out there struggling on a daily basis who are going to be struggling more directly because of Trump's tariffs. You know, someone in my family group chat just texted me. I was calling around to price out new car batteries because mine is cooked, and I was on this website. I'm not going to say the website because it's local. The guy told me, quote, just to let you know, all of our prices are going up tomorrow due to the tariffs. Another family member responded, yeah, my brother's company can't move any products currently. Everything is tied up in customs and no one really knows how to handle everything. And then they said that the stock market is getting tanked, but we all know all of that. Let me show you this clip from Benny Johnson.
Losing money costs you nothing. This is just the reality of life. You're gonna, like, were you young and dumb? How much money did you lose? Everyone loses money. Everyone loses money. It costs you nothing, in fact.
Not everyone is young and dumb. the vast majority of people who have their wealth tied up in a 401k are either older or they're closer to retirement or they're retired. So a lot of people who are nearing retirement just saw, 15% of their portfolio vanish. Now it may be 13%, but like today and yesterday, 13 to 15% drop is what we saw.
It builds quite a bit of character. In fact, you learn a lot of lessons actually by losing money. Losing your character costs you everything. Losing your country.
No one voted for Trump because they wanted to build character and go through a tough period and have to hibernate through the winter while the economy's melting down so that in 20 years maybe we'll reshore manufacturing. No, people voted for him because they thought that he would immediately lower prices. All he's done is ruin the supply chains that have given us decades of peace and prosperity. Let's check out Fox News as the market sells off. Now, do you think, I want to ask you guys before we watch this, do you think when the market closes, they're going to say, that was a terrible day, Trump needs to stop? Or are they going to find some way to maneuver around it and say, well, it looks like it's working?
About half its peak during the COVID drawdown. So if you think back to how bad things looked then, I'm thinking of Friday of March in 2020, it's only half as bad as that.
Oh, it's only half as bad as COVID. That makes me feel better that we're down 15% for no reason.
Keep an eye on that fear gauge.
Great perspective to end on, folks. The Dow in correction. It loses a third, most points in history. That's going to do it for us.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. All right, the stock market's tariff tantrum continues, but you know what? Key countries around the world are lining up to negotiate with President Trump. How about that?
By key countries, do you mean China? Oh, wait, no, not China. It was Vietnam. That was the key country he's talking about. But also, I like how he immediately spins it as the stock market's tariff tantrum. No. This is Trump's tariff tantrum, but of course Fox News can't say those words out loud because people would throw a tantrum. But again, the Dow was plummeting, and I think the main highlight is all of this was unnecessary. I was debating some Trump supporter the other day, and he said, it could have been worse. And I said, first of all, we haven't seen the retaliatory tariff, so wait until that happens. But number two, it didn't have to happen in the first place. The idea that a 5% drop isn't bad is totally false, but also it didn't have to be that way. We didn't have to have a 5% drop in the first place. So all of the defenses from conservatives are almost laughable. I made a video earlier kind of talking about the psychology of Trump supporters who are coping with this. Some of them don't know whether to be like, hey, I was wrong. Some of them have admitted, yeah, I'm getting killed in the stock market. I was totally wrong. So it's interesting to see the cognitive dissonance in real time. All that I would say is just stay calm. I know that it sucks watching the stock market fall, but as much as I would never give investment advice, none of this is investment advice, but I personally, when I see the stock market crashing and everybody's selling, I think of Warren Buffett's quotes. He said that's a buying opportunity. When everyone else is panicking, you buy. And that was his advice, not mine. And there's also just no reason to get caught up in a bunch of panic and red candles. If I would have sat there and watched my small little portfolio all day that I'm trying to build up, then I would have panicked, right? But I didn't. I said, we have time. In 5 years, we'll be okay. But I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next video, and peace out.